All right, so we'll start off with the clocking in and out options that we do have on offer with the rostering time and attendance software. The big three being fingerprinting, facial recognition, and mobile clocking in and out. With the fingerprint scanner, it is simply just a device that plugs into a Windows specific machine via USB port. It's a fingerprint device that just fits in basically the palm of your hand. Employee goes in, pops their fingerprint down, and it clocks them in and out. Nice and easy. Facial recognition, we do have a couple of options depending on what your complexities are. However, we do have a free app from the App Store. It is simply on an Android device or an Apple iOS tablet. Go to the App Store, you download the application for free, you log in with an email and password, and you've got facial recognition. In today's demonstration, I will be going through the mobile clocking out aspect, but it also will be the employee self-service portal as well. In this mobile app, you can use that in conjunction with any other clocking in and out method as well. If fingerprinting or facial isn't your style, we do also have an iris scanning option. Same deal, USB device, Windows computer, but instead of using a fingerprint biometric, it'll be an iris. So scans their eye, clocks them in and out, nice and easy. PIN codes and passwords, tried and true method, obviously the least secure out of all of the methods that we have on offer because the highest chance of buddy clocking, but it is there for the people that are scared of technology. RFID clocking in and out as well. Again, it's another USB device, but instead of lodging a biometric to clock in and out, they will use a fingerprint, or they will use an RFID swipe card or a fob tag instead of a fingerprint or an iris, for an example. What we're going to do is we're going to start off in the Wageloch mobile app here. As you can see, we've got everything enabled in the app here, but it is a customizable program. So if there isn't anything relevant to your business, we will hide it, pack it away. When you do need that function enabled on that rainy day, we can then get you set up, ready to go, no additional fees involved. Clock in, clock out, very simple. You click clock in. They can select a department or a role that they are working within that department if it isn't already pre-assigned on the roster. They can also opt for specific allowances on the beginning of the shift or the end of their shift, and they can also add in additional notes if they need management to be informed about something in particular. They simply go clock in, and that's when it will track the GPS location from the employee's phone, so you know where they were and where they were supposed to be. Clocking in out is just exactly the same. Clock out, done. Logbooking is just in case you need to link it to a travel allowance or a kilometer allowance for the employee. They add the odometer reading at the beginning of the trip and the end of the trip, and then that translates into your timesheet module where it will then need to be finalized. My roster is just the published roster to the employee. What you'll be able to see here is the date, start of the shift, end of the shift, and what department or departments the employee is working in. Should they want to swap this shift out, they can click on the shift swap button and request it to be swapped. So this isn't the employee fixing it amongst themselves without managers being involved. It is a direct request to the manager that they need to facilitate that shift swap. Once the manager does facilitate that shift swap and they pick someone, the other person accepts it, it rejigs your roster automatically and sends it out to the affected parties involved. Leave and unavailability, very easy to use functionality, but very vital. In here, all the employee needs to do is select the type of leave that they want to book in, and during the Wageloch setup, we'll customize whatever leave you want in the software, and whether their balances are shown or whether they're hidden or whether they can go into a negative or can't go into a negative. There's a lot of date restrictions, everything. In this example, we're just going to book in a single day of annual leave. We can see this employee has 639 hours. They want to just book Tuesday the 2nd off. We could do a part day request if need be, if they want to specify the exact start and end time of the leave for a doctor's appointment, for an example. But they just want to add in some leave. I have a tummy ache. Where's the sad face in there? The request is then saved. It will then be sent over to the main administrative side of the software, where it will then need to be approved or declined by a manager. Your unavailability is a function that will be mainly used by your casual pool of staff members. It is where they need to clearly define to you when or when they cannot take a shift. If we go create, we'll say from the 2nd of April 2024 to the 2nd of April 2028. This is this employee's university schedule, and on Monday, they cannot work at all. Do not give them any shifts. Tuesday, they like to do a little bit of revisional studies the morning after, so they can only work after, we'll say 1:45 specifically on Tuesdays. But from Wednesday to Sunday onwards, they can work anytime. That again is a request which will then need to be approved or declined by an administrator. Full roster view is just the full published rosters for as many rosters as you publish in advance. So every employee can see who they are working with, when everyone else's shift times begin, what departments they're working in, etc. If you are a manager in the app as well, you can commence a shift swap on behalf of an employee if they are not capable of doing it themselves. Shift swap is where the managers will log in and actually facilitate those swaps. And lastly is the message center. The message center is a way for administrators of the app to single out a group of employees or employees within those departments and send them out a message for whatever reason. It will simply be a push notification that gets sent directly to the employee's phone. It's not an instant messaging service or anything like that. It is more so for alerts to groups of employees or specific employees. And that there is the Wageloch Workforce Management Companion app. On the main administrative side of things, we are greeted with our rosters, any future, all rosters in the past as well. But first and foremost, we are going to go through the leave and availability management. In the top right-hand side of the program here, we've got a little leave calendar with 2 notifications. This is where you will go in and approve or decline any leave or availability that the employees have sent through. If we go into Amy Adams' request here, we can see quite clearly that she's requested just a 7.6 hour day. Her accrual balance for annual leave is currently 639. She's booked in 7.6 hours, so the remainder of 631.88 hours. If you have added in an employee's standard working schedule into the software, these leave requests will be automatically changed to what their start time and end time should be on the particular day that they are booking. So your costs for your rosters are extremely accurate and automatic. So for example, if Amy Adams is normally scheduled on Tuesdays to begin from 6 o'clock, that's where the leave request will begin. If I am happy with this and I do not need to make any more alterations to that leave, I simply go save. It is then approved. And we can now see that it is sitting in our leave calendar. If I now go to my unavailability, this is what Amy's availability is going to be for the next 4 years for her university degree. I'm happy with that. I will save that. Now that I have some leave and availability in here, if I go to this current roster period where that leave falls in, we will be able to see that annual leave that was approved automatically being injected into my roster. As we can see here, Amy is unavailable and she's on annual leave. So both functions are being used at once. I cannot change that leave that is in there. If I do need to change it, I would go back into the leave calendar and I would change the previous request. If the leave was to change on the day that it was supposed to be taken, you would be editing that in the final timesheet review. Going into a blank roster creation, creating a roster within Wageloch is extremely easy, and all the dollar figures that you see are according to the award interpretation that we have built into the software with you. To create a roster, it is simply adding in a row of data, selecting a staff member. We can see straight away that Amy is not available to take this shift, so we'll pick Carol, Clarine, Cliff, and we'll go Alphonse as well. Go done. They will all now have a row of data. All you need to do to create a shift is left click at the start time and drag it across to the end time. The dollar figure that you see on the right hand side here is according to the award rules that we have built into the software with you. Carol has a shift, Green has a shift, and so does Cliff. You can notice that they are all different colors, signifying different departments. All the colors within the software can be changed. Don't worry about that. When I right click on a shift, that's when I can start manipulating the data that I've created, like inserting into the shift a 30-minute unpaid break. If I need to clearly define a different role that this employee is working within this department, I can apply a different role so they know exactly where they need to be and what they need to be doing when they go to that area of the business. I could also create the roster the opposite way around, where I create the shift first, and then I can select a staff member. Because we are using departments as well, it is really filtering out the staff list that you see when you go to select a staff member. As you can see, we've got one staff list here. And then if we were to change that to this department, we now have a completely different staff list. Some really great functionality as well is being able to show the cost difference between all of these employees as well, depending on all their individual agreements, award structures, etc. The dollar figure that you see here is how much that employee will cost to take that shift. So you can make a lot more informed decisions. And Louise gets that shift. There's multiple ways that we can build the roster. We could do it daily, like this. We could roster by an individual staff member, like this. And we will get to here 38 hours. In this specific award setup, I built in that overtime is to start calculating automatically after 38 hours in the week. So if you notice on this Friday shift here, I drag it out a little bit longer. We now have a gray bar signifying that overtime is automatically kicking in exactly at 4:15 p.m. on Friday the 12th for this employee. And lastly, we can also build our roster in a grid view like this. Some other great functionality in the rosters as well is the budgeting side of things. As we can see here straight away, it is showing us a cost breakdown per employee, a daily cost for all employees, a daily cost for an individual employee, a full week or fortnight cost per individual employee, and a full week or fortnight roster cost. Right now, we have spent $2,089 on wages in this roster. All of these reports as well can be broken down by department, so you can meticulously see how much each individual department will be costing your business for that pay period. My personal favorite report is the show timesheets report here. This will show you how you are getting to those dollar figures using the award interpretation. This is where it truly shines. As we can see for Amy Adams, we have given her 39.75 hours in this pay period. but it is clearly defining that 38 of those are in ordinary time, and then 1.75 is in overtime. So you can clearly see how you are spending your wages. The next very important thing that I'd like to show you is the timesheets module, arguably the most important part and important piece of the puzzle. This is the part that actually helps pay the staff members. When we load up the timesheet for the first time in the pay period, it will pull through all of the roster times that you have set by default. We could configure the software to go in between the clock in and clock out time. It's your choice. What we will see here is 3 bits of information. Number 1 is the black bar. The black bar is the projected rostered shift. The colored bar underneath that are the paid hours. And then lastly, the green line and the red line, those are your clock in and your clock out times. Our job here, at the end of the day, the morning after, at the end of the week, at the end of the fortnight, whenever you want to do it, you need to move the colored bar where you want the staff member to be paid. As we can see here for Hetty Macbeth, she clocked in at 6:32 a.m., but she was rostered to begin at 6. She was a half an hour late, so much like I was doing in the roster before with the left click and the drag, I simply left click and then drag it back to where the staff member needs to be paid. But she also did work an extra hour at the end of the day, and I do want to pay her for those times. Now, there's a number of ways that you can go around this depending on what your agreements are with your staff members, but generally you just click and you drag out the shift. It'll recalculate how much that person needs to be paid under all of the award rules. So if they have a specific penalty that needs to be paid between 4 and 5 p.m., the software will automatically know. However, if you want to override the award interpretation with a specific agreement that you have with your staff member, like time off in lieu, we can create a brand new block here and then reassign those hours as time in lieu accrued, so that it will bank away that hour for a rainy day. It won't count towards paid hours. It won't count towards overtime or anything like that. It is banking away that hour for when they want to take it. You have Carmen here, for an example, who clocked in an hour late, but they informed you, but they just clocked in when they remembered. You do not have to make an alteration there. It will only ever pay for where you move the colored bar. We can also see that she clocked out an hour later, but we never approved that to happen. If we click on this clock time, if they're using the mobile app, it will show the GPS location in Google Maps of where that employee was when they registered that clock out time on their phone. As we can see, this is in the middle of Packsaddle in New South Wales, in the middle of nowhere. She is definitely not where she was supposed to be, so I am not going to approve those hours. Clarine here was booked in for personal leave, but actually showed up for work, and we can see that with the clock in and clock out times. So instead of paying the leave, we would then change that to a normal shift. It'll cancel out the leave, it'll refund them the balance, and it will pay the hours normally. But she did leave 2 hours earlier than expected. So we can drag that back, and then we can create the rest as personal leave manually. And then one last scenario will be Alphonse, who clocked in and clocked out, but never had a shift. He was never projected to work, but he did, and he needs to be paid. So we simply left click, drag and drop, put in that 30-minute break. Done. He is now going to get paid for those hours. When we are happy with every change that we have made here, we simply finalize the day, and then we go on about our merry way until the next day, where you then need to finalize the next day's hours. Once every day has been closed off with a green tick, we can then proceed to the pre-submission summary. What the pre-submission summary is going to show us is the true raw payroll data. We will be able to see every pay item that the employee is going to be paid into. If you are not happy with this screen here, you are not happy with payroll. You can go back, you can make alterations, but you should only hit the submit button here when you are happy with every single hour that you see here, because what you see here will be exactly what will appear in payroll at the end of the day. And that's pretty much a quick little run through of the Wageloch workforce management software. Thank you for your time.